Very much, so let's get right to it. Nate taking over the world Burleson. Peter changes his Zoom background more than I change my hair during a show. Schrager is here. My name is Kay Adams, and this is the Lead Block.
Lead Block.
Lead Block. What's up,
Let's do it. Thanks, guys. All right, let's start with the defending champions. Nice way to start the show, right? Everybody's looking at this team. Target on their back. How do you take them out? Training camp is just over 2 weeks away, guys. Bucks looking to go for two. Head coach Bruce Arians asked if he was going to change anything for this 2021 season. Here's what he said, quote, telling Buccaneers.com, I think for me, I'm going to have to be harder. Make sure that we stay the hunter and not the hunted. We relaxed a lot already this spring. Teams are getting ahead of us right now, but I think we can catch up quickly. We know, we talk about this all the time, guys, and Dee, about how hard it is to repeat, to do this back-to-back in this NFL. Nate, what is the biggest challenge you think that the Buccaneers are facing in 2021?
It's staying hungry. You know, they might play this season on a full stomach. There's three reasons why a Super Bowl team isn't as successful the following year. One, players leaving to go chase that bag, right? We understand it. You get the Super Bowl ring, the one thing you've been chasing, a Lombardi trophy, and then all of a sudden you're saying to yourself, now it's time for me to fill my bank account, and that's perfectly fine. Number two, coaches. They get plucked right off of that roster because everybody wants to know how to make the secret sauce. They need to find one of those chefs that can help them cook up the same meal in their kitchen. And then number three, like I said, it's staying hungry. The reason why that group of young, hungry, talented players for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wanted a Super Bowl so bad is because majority of the team never tasted it. Now you've tasted it. Now that you have sat there at that dinner table, you've had that 5-course meal, you know exactly what it's like to get to that mountaintop, have the appetizer, the entree, and the dessert. Are you as hungry going into this next season? I don't know. I'm just a guy on TV that never made it to a Super Bowl. I know plenty of guys that have. I've asked this question time and time again. But the same thing they keep saying to me is they have to be as hungry. And that's up to the coach, up to the players, and up to the leader.
Nate, my friend, I love you, and that's how we're starting this. But I have a few issues here. Number one, the players. Nobody left to go chase major money. All 22 starters are back. Number two, you said the coaches. Everybody is back, including both coordinators. And number three, you talked about being hungry. I have never met a Tom Brady team that is not hungry. And here's where we talk about my being a reporter, right? I can't even remember which Super Bowl it was at. I've covered so many Tom Brady Super Bowls. But I remembered the lead up. Brian Hoyer, who was then Tom Brady's backup, saying, it's really hard to slack off when the best player on your team works his tail off. That best player is Tom Brady. And then I also remember Andrew Hawkins telling me once that the thing about Tom Brady that stands out is that you know he can do something in his sleep and he will still be repping it 50 times. So Bruce Arians can talk whatever game he wants to talk about being hunted versus being the hunter, but no Tom Brady team is ever going to be complacent. So for me, guys, I think the biggest challenge is just staying healthy, especially Peter, since so many of these guys are veterans and older.
I think that's a good segue to what I think might be getting in their way, and that's injuries. And I know you're saying, well, every team has injuries. The Buccaneers were so incredibly fortunate last year that the injury bug did not sting them at all. Look, they had O.J. Howard injured. He missed a season, but they had Gronk and they had Cameron Brate. So that really didn't impact them as much as people might have thought they would before the season started. And then you look at their offensive line, basically the same line played the entire season with Alex Kappa being injured, but everyone else out there. You go through the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, the running backs, everyone was healthy and they were there at the end. Even Vita Vea came back and played a huge role in the conference championship game and the Super Bowl. This team just needs to stay healthy. That's their biggest obstacle because that issue didn't really come up last year. So what's going to be an obstacle for a team that's been through it all, that came from nearly being 500 mid-season last year? Well, they were all healthy. They were all on the field. So to me, it's that, because you never root for an injury or never expect an injury. But in the NFL, You will lose a guy like David Bakhtiari for the playoffs, and that affects you as a team. You will lose your starting 2 offensive tackles before the Super Bowl, and that'll impact you as a team. Buccaneers were incredibly fortunate. So to me, they are a veteran team. It's all right up here, and they're coached by the perfect guy at the levers. I just hope that they're all healthy, and that goes for all teams. But for an extended schedule like we're seeing, where they're starting on July 31st with training camp, really, and they're expected to go all the way to February 13th, the Super Bowl, to expect a back-to-back season with no injuries really impacting the roster, that is asking a lot.
You saw it with the Chiefs last year. It's a great point, Schrager. I'll start with you to throw this back and bring up this wrinkle. When I saw the question last night in my email, I thought, biggest challenge to the Buccaneers. Aditi, Nate, and Peter are all going to give me a team in the NFC that's going to be able to stand in their way. You look at the Packers last year. You look at the Saints. Both were formidable threats to them at certain points in the season. And now both of those teams, of course, have questions. We don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers, but we'll get to it in today's show. Stay tuned for that. And then you have Jameis Winston, Triggs. Can Jameis Winston rise to the occasion? There's so many question marks. We'll talk about them here in a little bit after the break. I don't know if there is a real significant challenger in the NFC to the Buccaneers. You guys didn't mention one, Triggs.
Yeah, look, the NFC is so wide open after the Buccaneers. The team that a lot of people are pegging are the LA Rams. We haven't seen it yet. Like I can't put the Rams and the Buccaneers in the same conversation yet. We haven't seen Stafford throw a real pass as an LA Ram. But you're right, Kay. With the quarterback situation in Green Bay, the quarterback situation in New Orleans, you look at the entire NFC East as one giant question mark. With the exception of Russell Wilson in Seattle, I don't know if there is a solid, stable 10-year guy at any of these teams that we could say right now on July 12th that this is the quarterback who's going to challenge Tom Brady and those guys in Tampa.
We'd love to hear from you guys, of course, at GMFB. We'll talk Saints. Oh, sorry, Nate, I didn't know you were going next. Go for it. A little rusty.
No, I just wanted to jump in because unless we're talking about Aaron Rodgers coming back and playing for the Green Bay Packers, the only other quarterback that you can see competing in the playoffs that will give their team a chance, like you said, Schrags, it's Russell Wilson. And I get it. Russell Wilson, he starts off as hot as possible. He's in the MVP conversation, and somewhere towards the end of the season, it seems like they kick themselves in the butt every single year. But I feel like Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks are going to be a lot different. They're going to be a lot stronger. And Russell Wilson has a lot more to prove after stumbling down the finish in the last season where he was throwing uncharacteristic interceptions in the red zone. So 2 quarterbacks come to mind, Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. Only one of those guys is showing up for the voluntary and mandatory camps.
Can one of these NFC teams stand up and be a problem for these Buccaneers? It's a great question. We're going to have a huge show, guys. Lane Johnson on the show. We'll talk a little NFC East. We'll talk pregnancy and doing drills in the pregnancy room. It's all sorts of stuff going on. Patrick Queen, we, of course, will talk AFC North. We have Aditi King-Cabral with us focusing on that, but we will be back after the break. But first, we love hearing from you. It fuels our show when we're not on the air, when we are on the air. So the Bucs won their second. 12 franchises, though, have not brought the Lombardi Trophy home. So we want to put it to Twitter. Which fan base is most deserving of a Super Bowl title? Bills Mafia, tweet us at GMFB as we take a short break.